Jim is the founder of Uncommon Logic, a digital marketing agency that helps its customers solve one of the toughest challenges in business, growing revenue through customer acquisition. He also teaches as a professor at Baylor University, specializing in entrepreneurship and digital marketing, and we're honored to have him here today. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jim McKinley. Come on up, Jim.
Thanks, Dan. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Let me go ahead and get my slides going. All right, I am so excited to get to talk to you guys a little bit today about the future of digital marketing. Now, unfortunately, well, thank you, Dan, because I don't have a cool video like Aaron does. But a little bit about me, as Dan said, I live in Austin. I am the principal and co-founder of a digital marketing ad agency called Uncommon Logic. And I've been doing digital marketing since 1999 with literally hundreds of clients, and many of them in the automotive aftermarket space. The only reason why that's important to you all is I literally have made every single mistake you can make in digital marketing, and hopefully I can share some of my war stories and scar tissue with you all. All right, to get us started today, I thought it'd be good to talk about football. All right, do we have any college football fans in here? All right, absolutely. Okay, what's over the last couple of years, what's been one of the big stories in not only college football, but college sports? What's that? The transfer portal. Players are transferring a lot. What else? Making money. NIL, right there. That's one of the things that drives the players to change. College athletes now are allowed to be paid. In 2021, a couple of years ago, the Supreme Court ruled against the NCAA and ruled that college players could be paid for their name, image, and likeness, or NIL. And currently, we're in a state of chaos. This is still really new. All the schools are trying to figure out what this means. And it's causing chaos. Jaden Rashada is said to have signed a $13.9 million deal to play football for the University of Florida, and the deal subsequently fell apart. Texas A&M, do we have any Aggies in here? All right, we got the one. There's the one that nodded, said yes on college football. Well, apparently your team spent, what was it, $30 million in NIL deals for their 2022 class. That's not bad, but NIL will fundamentally change college football. What it means is the gap between the have and the have-not teams are going to grow. We're going to see a lot more people in the transfer portal. We're even seeing teams go into the transfer portal and switch conferences. I mean, every day there for a while, you're reading about another school or another team moving from one conference to the other. Next year, the college football playoffs is going to expand to 12 teams. And in long term, we may see that college football completely separate from the NCAA. Now, is this good or bad? Well, we don't know yet. It depends. There's some things to say it's very good because the players are able to share in some of the wealth that some of the colleges that are making on them. It allows them to get paid during a short playing time. But also, there's some cons in that, college football revenue is actually used to support and subsidize a lot of the other sports. Additionally, imagine being in a locker room when you're not getting paid at all and you're next to the guy that's getting paid $1 million a year to play football. That might be lead to a little bit of distraction. So the point here is that college sports aren't dead, they're just going to change. So what in the world does this have to do with digital marketing? Well, similarly, digital marketing, like NIL in college football, is undergoing some massive changes. The changes that are occurring inside the industry today are as big as that I've seen, as big as since when Google first came on the scene and radically changed the digital marketing ecosystem. Now, these changes will not kill digital marketing, but it will radically transform them. And so what I want to talk about today is to share with you some of those to give you a chance to get ahead now. So let me set some expectations. Aaron, by the way, did a fantastic job of covering AI. I'm going to go a little bit deeper now inside of digital marketing and not only talk a little bit about the future, but what I see is happening. So some expectations. I'm going to give you a summary of some of these trends, implications, and actions you can take today. Now, notice that some of these topics, we could do entire 2-hour sessions just on the one topic. So I'm not going to be able to go through everything in much depth. Now, while this is a moderate to advanced topic, it's not a technical presentation. I'm going to be talking about Google Analytics 4, but I'm not going to get into how you actually implement it or how to set up server-side tagging or whatever. That's not my forte. What my goal is hopefully to give you some specific things that you can either start doing today or start learning about, because things are changing. NIL is coming to digital marketing. So my agenda for today is really going to do 2 things. The first thing is I'm going to go through 4 megatrends that I see happening in the digital marketing ecosystem. And then secondly, I'm going to go into what are those implications of those changes and what things do you need to be doing today. Now, if you want to, I'm going to go through a lot of stuff. So if you have questions that you want to ask that maybe, I'm going to try and save some time at the very end. But if you have some questions that you want to ask or follow up or whatever that maybe I don't get to, feel free to reach out to me. It's this bit.ly at SEMA, 2023 SEMA, and that URL will be at the bottom of the slides. Okay, let's dive in. Let's first start talking about the 4 megatrends in digital marketing. The first one is that regulation is increasing a lot. One of the neat parts about the internet is that it has traditionally been very, very lightly regulated. And it all started back in 1996 with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act that basically says that websites were not liable for content posted by others. What that basically allowed is it basically allowed for the growth of search engines, social media, and a lot of the internet that we see today. Additionally, digital marketing was not heavily regulated. In fact, until recently, the only big law that specifically covered digital marketing was the CAN-SPAM Act of 2003. Now, you guys probably remember that. Prior to 2003, you used to get all those unsolicited emails that the CAN-SPAM Act completely took care of. You know, you don't get any of those anymore today. All right, maybe you do. But the difference is the regulation that's coming today has teeth. It all started in Europe with the GDPR, and it has continued here in the United States with the CCPA, the California Consumer Protection Act. And specifically what these laws do is they protect the privacy of your users. Specifically, how you can collect personal information, how you store the information, how you use it, and how you edit and update. And by the way, the burden of these laws aren't going to fall on Google or Meta, it's going to fall on you all. And the fines can be expensive. If you violate these, I kind of made fun of the CAN-SPAM Act earlier, basically saying it's not effective. The fines for these are going to be real. And they're going to be charged on per instance, per user. So this is something, again, this is not a privacy lecture, but if you want an area to look into privacy, because that is changing. And I'm going to talk about some of the implications about that in a second. All right, I'm going to have a quiz. I'm going to play a sound here and see if you can name it. And I guarantee you, if you can name what this sound is, it will age you. Because people above a certain age will recognize this sound. All right, you all ready?
You got mail.
What's that from? AOL, exactly. See, this is why I presented SEMA, as more of the people understand my references. So yes, AOL. And if you know what that is, you probably have had a whole drawer full of these. Thousands and thousands of those DVDs and CDs sent to you by AOL. Well, as you remember, if you're an AOL user like I was, AOL and was just one example of the early online services, which are what's known as a walled garden. And so as you remember, before you heard that lovely sound of you've got mail, after you dialed into your modem, you heard all the static and the ee, you would come to a screen like this. This was the internet to you. If you wanted to book a flight, you clicked on travel. If you wanted to shop for something, you clicked on shopping, or you read news, or you read about sports, or you check your stock quotes. You did it all inside of AOL without ever leaving. Now, what was the ultimate demise of AOL? Well, as we know, what eventually happened is the internet, where we didn't become constrained to AOL, we could go anywhere. But what's interesting is you've heard the phrase, what's old is new again. Well, that's what we're seeing is we're seeing actually, and this is the second trend, is the reemergence of the walled gardens. What do I mean by that? Well, the large digital platforms, and by that I mean everything from Twitter or X or whatever they're called this week, to Facebook, Instagram, Google, they're trying to recreate walled gardens. And what I mean by that is in this walled garden world, they're trying to kind of make it like Hotel California, where you can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. They want you to stay on their platform and not come to your website. They want you to identify problems, research options, and eventually purchase right there inside of Facebook or Instagram or Google. The other thing about these walled gardens, and this is a big implication we're going to talk about later, is they don't want to share the data back with you. So all this data that you're getting today, you're not going to get in the future. And we're going to talk about that. So for all of us that are really familiar with the AOL example, let me show you an example on Facebook of what's happening today. This is actually on a phone. If you go to the gear.com page inside of Facebook, you can see some of their featured products. And I can click on one, and this is the multifunction crew cab truck seat cover with hammock. I can add it to the cart right there, and sure enough, I can buy it right there on Facebook without ever going to your site. Now, that's both exciting, but it's also kind of scary, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. The third mega trend that we're seeing is the traditional buyer's journey has always been sort of linear. And what I mean by that is when I say buyer's journey, that's the whole process from when someone becomes aware they have a problem, from researching the different options, to coming up with a solution and actually purchasing a product or a service. Now, this is what I would teach digital marketing students at Baylor and inside of our agency, that this was a very linear sort of events. So what would happen is someone would start out with an SEO query. I've got a problem. Google, help me solve it. And what would Google do? They would push them to your website. They would read a little bit about whatever problem that they had, and then maybe they'd see a display ad. They'd click on it and come back to your website. Then maybe they'd click on a paid search ad, then maybe a retargeting ad, and then maybe they'd type in your URL directly, but everything goes through your website, and then what comes out at the bottom? A sale. This is changing. This is stuff that I used to teach and was the status quo for digital marketing for the last 20 years is going away. It's becoming much more scattered shot, meaning that instead of going to Google to research a problem, I might go to the Mighty Car Mods forum and start reading about a problem. And then maybe I go to YouTube to watch a video about it. Now, I could still click on a paid search ad or a shopping ad or an SEO, but maybe I then also go to a Reddit page. And then finally, maybe I go to Facebook to buy. This is very different from how it's traditionally been, where your site has been kind of the center of the solar system. Additionally, the other thing that we're seeing as a digital agency is search engines, while important, I'm not saying they're not important anymore, but they are becoming less dominant. And what I mean by that is the peanut butter is getting spread out to other sources. So back in 2018, way back in 2018, that's pre-pandemic, so really long time ago, 93% of all users said they started their digital journey on buying a product on one of the search engines, like Google, Yahoo, or Bing. This year, when asked the question, where do you go start searching for products, where do you go shopping online? Yes, this does total up to more than 100%, but that's because people are now going to multiple sources when they start their journey. Now, notice on here I highlighted search engines are still important, but we're also seeing the importance of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, brand websites, TikTok, other social media platforms, and other sites in general. So, excuse me, megatrend number 4, and this is where Aaron, and I really look forward to Darrell's presentation next, the rise of generative AI and new tools. As we were already talked about and had a great presentation by Aaron, we're on the verge of the next generation of tools. And these tools will provide deeper insights, will automate some of the easy tasks, some of the low-thinking tasks, as Aaron talked about, and help you push out information about your company. So just as an example, I typed, what exhaust should I buy for my 67 Mustang? And again, this is Google's version of ChatGPT called Bard. And you can see what it did. It actually presents a short article of things that I may want to look at, and then actually list out different products that would work with my car, with my 67 Mustang. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. All those descriptions, they did not pull them from a website. ChatGPT, or in this case Bard, wrote them on the fly, wrote them after I asked the question. So we're going to talk about what this means here in a second. All right, let's talk about some of the implications, and specifically, what can you all do as digital marketers? Well, the first thing you need to know is digital marketing is about to get harder, a lot harder. So today, we live in this very us-centric world where our websites are the center of the solar system. And the way it sort of works is, our brand and our content, they live on our website. They live there in the middle. And around us, we have all of these customers that are circling us. And what we try to do today is we try to use digital marketing like Google Ads or Facebook to try and knock one of those customers out of the orbit and have them come to visit our website. And then when we do, well, what do? We use data, we use analytics to collect data about our visitors, and then ultimately, we use that data to retarget people, and we use it to create profiles to find more customers. Well, this is changing because Copernicus is in the building. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and the advantage of having a 12-year-old daughter, besides learning how to deal with big feelings, is I get to relearn all the science stuff that I forgot. So who here can tell me who was Copernicus? You all forgot your science as well. Come on, what? All right, no one wants to show off, so I'm going to show off for you. Copernicus was the person in the 1500s that first postulated that the earth revolved around the sun and not the sun around the earth. We are having a Copernicus moment with digital marketing. It is shattering our current model. Right now, we are moving from having the customer to being a planet around our website to having to be thinking that the customer is actually the sun, that we revolve around the customer. We are a planet in this solar system. Now, the reason why that's important is because once we start thinking about that, we also have to realize that all these digital marketing channels now aren't the source of traffic and sales for us. They're actually competing with us for the customer's attention. Oh, and by the way, guess what? There's now a lot more different things and a lot more planets out there in our solar system. You've got forums, you've got Reddit, you've got Facebook, you've got the Google ads, you've got Amazon, you've got all these different things where customers are going to learn about your product or service or problem that you are trying to solve. So this leads us to our first implication. There will be fewer people coming to your website. I know that is difficult to think because the internet has been this growth engine for so long, but long run, maybe not now, maybe not next month, but fewer people are going to be coming to your site. Now, your website is still important. I don't want you to walk away to say, hey, that guy Jim said to get rid of my website. I'm not saying that. However, the scattershot buyer's journey, because people are doing more research and because of this emergence of these walled gardens, fewer people are going to be coming to your site. In fact, some of your customers may never visit your site at all. Additionally, as related, in fact, you can see this. I put up some data here. This is the traffic to the top 25 websites actually declined 11% last year. Web traffic overall was not down. It was actually the same or up. What it means is this peanut buttering, as I mentioned, of the traffic to a wider range of sites and a wider range of sources of information. In fact, that's backed up is because customers are looking at other sources for authentic information. This whole model of Google to a website or Bing to a website model, I'm not saying it's dead, but it's becoming viewed as being less trusted. In fact, I saw a stat on search engine land that I added on here that over half the searches that are done inside of Google do not end up with a click on a paid or organic listing. So what are people doing? They might get their answer right there, or their question's not being answered, or they're going somewhere else. And by the way, the other big trend that we're seeing a lot of at our agency is the Reddit factor. So here's an article about it. Some of you all that are really knowledgeable about search, I see a couple of you all nodding. By the way, you need to sit in front of all the presentations because I love how engaged you are, so thank you very much. No, but you guys have probably, I don't know if you've seen this before, but you know, for the real sophisticated digital customers, what they do is they run a search query and they add Reddit at the end of the query. The idea is this is a way to insulate yourself from, they call it parasitic SEO. And you know what I'm talking about. That's when you want to find some information about something and you click through a link and you find a low quality page that's been over optimized that's just trying to sell you something. It's not a good experience. And so the idea is you can type in a query like best 67 Mustang suspension Reddit, and you'll get a list of forums or discussions about the specific product or service that you're looking for that is unfiltered. And so then you as a user get to curate that information instead of trusting an algorithm. So this is what we're seeing some of going on and becoming definitely much more popular. But that's not it. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you knew this. I mean, we know YouTube is owned by Google, but did you know that YouTube is actually the second largest search engine out there? So you've got people that are looking for your product or service inside of YouTube because the type of content that they want to consume about your product is video-based. Additionally, man, TikTok blowing up. I'm too old for TikTok. My kids love TikTok, but we're seeing an enormous amount of content being created inside of TikTok. And if this is the place that your customers research your product or service, it's a place you need to be. But these are not all, I mean, again, I already mentioned forums, but you even have podcasts, etc. The common thing about all of these things I just showed, in all of these examples, traffic is not going to your website in all of these things. Doesn't mean they eventually won't, but they're not going to your site right now. And so this means, this has three implications for you with the fewer visitors. The first one is that you're going to have fewer opportunities to convert visitors into customers. It will be more challenging to get people to come to your website. And finally, there's going to be less opportunity to influence and frame a customer's decision. So what do you need to do about it? Well, we all need to act like we live in Austin, Texas. So I live in Austin. Anyone else here from Austin? Man, crickets. Man, this is a tough crowd. All right, this is a picture of one of our bridges on one of our lakes. Not the part of town I live in. All right, but one thing about Austin is that we have to maximize our sporadic rainfall. So the interesting thing about Austin, it's been described as a desert which floods a couple of times a year. And if you ever be in Austin or you have someone that lives there, you know that everyone starts getting a little bit nervous right around Memorial Day and October, because those are the 2 months where we tend to get a lot of rain. In fact, Austin overall, we average about 34 inches, which is slightly above average for the United States, but we tend to get it very concentrated. In July and August of this year, we got 0.3 inches over 2 months. Over the last week, since I wrote this presentation, by the way, over the last week, we have gotten almost, at my house, we have gotten 8 inches of rain in 1 week. So 1/4 of our rain in 7 days for the year. So what does that mean? Well, it means water's expensive. I have neighbors that have a $1,000 water bill. Wouldn't that be fun to open up? But what this means is we have to take and maximize every drop of rain that we get. So that's why Austin has 5 lakes built around it. So in the good times, when it rains a lot, like it has this past week, we capture as much of that water as we can, and we try to use it sporadically, or use it very carefully. It's the same thing, y'all, with your digital traffic. You need to maximize the value of that traffic to your website. And I'm going to give you 3 ways you can do it. The first way we're going to talk about is well thought through messages. Then we're going to talk about conversion rate optimization, and then quickly customizing your user experience. And by the way, what I said earlier when I mentioned that I'm just going to skim over these. I'm not going to really do a whole A/B testing session or whatever. Hopefully some of those will come later. But these are some ideas or some things that if you're not doing, hopefully I can prompt you to. So well thought through messages. So is anyone here familiar with Lucid Motors? So a couple of you all, they kind of, they basically make an EV that ranges in price from $80,000 to $180,000. The way I've heard some people describe them is a luxury version of a Tesla. All right, if you were building an $80,000 to $180,000 EV, who would your target customer be? Someone that's got the money, absolutely. But it has to go beyond that because you have to stand out. And so this is actually a little snippet from a much longer page that the branding ad agency for Lucid Motors put together about the specific persona of who Lucid Motors is looking for. They're not only looking for people that are wealthy, but they're looking for people that share in their California DNA, that leverages their home state optimism and pioneering spirit. This brand brief goes on to be very specific about the person they're looking for and what that person is concerned about. Then if you actually go to the Lucid website and you look at the photographs and you read the text, it's all geared towards that persona. I mean, just when I just say the California pioneering spirit. Just look at the couple there. I mean, they're going on a trip. They have expensive luggage. The guy's not wearing socks. He's got to be cooler than me. So if you aspire to that, that's what Lucid Motors is going after. Now, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a brand agency to do this. Fundamentally, your brand needs to answer 4 questions. Number 1, who are my customers? What problem are they trying to solve? What prompts them to buy? And why would they buy from me versus my competitors? If you just answer those 4 questions, write them down, put it on a piece of paper, then go through your website and say, does my website reflect these things? Is my website talking to those customers? Am I answering their concerns? Am I showing how my product solves their problem? Am I giving them reasons on why they would buy from me? If you can do that, I promise you, you will be ahead of 80% of the websites I see out there today. All right, real quick, conversion rate optimization. You all know this, probably a lot of you know this. This is the process of using software where you put up 2 slightly different versions of your website, and every other user sees a slightly different version of your website, and then over time, you can statistically measure which one performs better. Now, we have seen with some of our clients that successful A/B testing can increase average revenue per visitor by 50%. That's 50% more money with the same marketing dollars. Now, it's not for everybody. Typically, you need at least 5,000 unique page visitors for a statistically significant test. So if you're just getting started, this doesn't apply to you. If you are an established brand, this is something that you should be doing. The other thing is that the mistake that I see people making is testing is like going to the gym. It's not a one-and-done activity. I always love going to the gym right after New Year's because it's really crowded, and then like 6 weeks later, it's like crickets again. So don't be like the New Year's Eve folks that make the promise, run one test and be done. Instead, you need to be testing on an ongoing basis. All right, let me just show you an example. This is a client of ours, ACV Auctions. They actually make software that it's not really totally SEMA folks, but they actually make software for car dealers that allows them to conduct wholesale auctions of their inventory. And our business challenge with them is that 40% of their total traffic came from mobile, but it just wasn't performing. And so we went through a process of testing a bunch of stuff. We increased the graphic size to cover the full screen. We reduced the copy to focus on the main value, reduced the text. We increased the contrast ratio. We made the button bigger. And we ran 2 versions of this test. Now, it's not a surprise, because I probably wouldn't be showing you a test that failed up here on stage. By making these changes, we saw huge impact on the results. We doubled the number of registrations. They had a product where they'd have to get a salesperson on the phone. Not only did we double registrations, we saw much greater engagement from the users. Again, this is not like a magic bean or a ball, a shiny object. This is something you have to do day in and day out. All right, I'm going to talk real briefly about website customization. I guess you'd have to start with the granddaddy, and that's Amazon. So this is the Amazon webpage as of last week when I went into it from an incognito browser. So Amazon has no idea who I am. And as you can see, they kind of throw a little bit of everything out there. They got stuff for kids, Prime Video, small space solution, plants, t-shirts, whatever. So this is the same page. Now, if I'm logged in or Amazon knows who I am, look at the difference on what it shows. A FBI psychological profiler could have a field day with this and figure out a lot about me by looking at my Amazon profile. First off, you can see I've bought Amazon Echo and the Alexa products in the past. You can see my 12-year-old daughter I talked about is looking for a dress. See, my wife just bought teeth whitening. There might be a big event coming up in my life. You can see I just did some repair work on my car. Someone in my household really loves ramen noodles. Could be someone is sick because we just bought a big thing of Kleenex. All of this stuff, every single one of these tiles is customized by Amazon to me. They're customizing the experience. Now, this is like enterprise level. Customization doesn't have to be this complicated. I'm going to show you a simpler version. This is a company called Blendjet. And I just happened to be looking at it the other day, and I went into the site. I don't remember where it was through. I think it was a paid search ad. And this is the experience that I came across. Notice the promotions that they're putting on the page. They're offering me free shipping. They're offering me a free 20-ounce jar. And then after I was on the site for a while, they gave me the ubiquitous, give me your phone number and we'll give you additional 10% off. Later the next day, from work, using a different machine, I went back to Blendjet, this time going through a different medium, and what do I see? A different experience. Some of those offers that I was made before are now no longer there. What they have done is they're smart. They've looked at their analytics and seen that people that come in by one channel are much more likely to respond to an offer, or an offer is needed to get them to buy, versus coming in another method to their website. They don't need that offer. This is where if you start leveraging your data, you can do really fun things like this. All right, what action can you do today? If you are an emerging brand, if you are just getting started on things, here's where you need to start. Start with your website. I know one of the things when you're first getting started, you get very excited about your product and you want to start telling people about it. Resist this. Your website needs to be tuned and running before you start marketing. The average e-commerce conversion rates, they're all over the place. They tend to average about 1 to 3%, 1.5 to 3%, depending upon the source. And so 1 to 2% is a good rule of thumb to get started. Don't pour money into a leaky bucket of digital marketing by starting before you have a good site or a good experience. It's kind of like opening up a store where you don't have cash registers set up. You may be able to get people in there, but nothing's going to happen. And one of the things I've put on here is there's a couple of links to websites. And again, if you reach out to me or you get the deck from Pamela, you'll be able to get a copy of these. But these are just some articles that we've seen that we've liked about basic website design. Okay, if you're an experienced or an established brand, what should you do? Well, first off, ensure message consistency throughout your website. That becomes very important because not only for people, but all the AI, all the ChatGPT that's now reading your site, if you've got 17 different messages on your site, that's going to confuse them. They won't know who you are. Secondly, if you're not doing it, start an A/B testing program. And then if you want to, this is more advanced, but test customizing. And there's a couple of good articles there about A/B testing and site customization. All right, implication number 2, your brand no longer lives on your website. In the old solar system world, before Copernicus, where your website was the sun, all you had to do was wrap your brand around your website. All your messaging, all your stuff about yourself just had to be on your website. But remember, we're now in this distributed solar system where you're one of many different options for users. As a result, your brand has to live out there in that solar system. It can't just be on your website. Now, external messaging about your brand could be good or could be bad. Here's some examples on the Jeep Gladiator. Here's a post on Twitter, someone extolling the virtues of their Jeep Gladiator. Savor the dirt, crawl the heights, live for the challenge. Or you might see something on TikTok. This is actually a pretty cool video where someone has modded out their Jeep Gladiator, and they're so proud of it, they're showing all the things that they've done. But remember, you don't have control over this. So while these are good, you're also going to have bad things. Here's on YouTube, Jeep Gladiator review. If you buy this Jeep, you're stupid. Well, I don't want to be stupid. Better click on that. Well, guess what? 354,000 people have watched that review on the Jeep Gladiator. Probably not what Jeep wants to have out there. And so this is what the second action that you need to take. You will need to assert control of your brand outside of your website. Again, we're going into this different sort of world where you're waiting for the phone to ring versus going door to door. What do I mean by that? Well, brands will have less control of their message because I can't prevent someone from creating a bad review about my product or service, but I can be more proactive. Get your content out into more places. Earned social media will become more important. Later on this week, in fact, one of our panelists, Chelsea Craig, is going to do a whole session on reputation management. Highly encourage you guys to come to that because reputation management of what users say about your brand are going to matter more and more out there. All right, let's look again. I talked about Lucid Motors. Let me just show you a couple of things they do. First off, they have a big influencer network. We used to call it PR, but they basically loan out cars to different influencers or publications to let them try their different products. And it tends to work well. I mean, here's a very positive review. Again, they make videos of comparing their car versus the Tesla. Additionally, they are very big into Instagram. By the way, notice the California imagery on there, staying true to the brand, once again. Now, while this may feel overwhelming, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a car company to do this. Let me show you an example of a brand integrating or engaging on Reddit, inside of Reddit. So the question is how do I make a 1967 Camaro handle better? And there's a whole discussion here. And this particular brand responded to a discussion. And specifically what they said is, regarding the front end tire rubbing, you can go with the smaller tires or greater rim offset. Sometimes a bit stiffer springs might help too, but that can negatively affect other parts of the handling. I assume you don't want the gasser look. Now, what do you notice about that? Or what do you notice is missing from that post? What's that? There's no link to the website. What else? He's not selling anything. All right. Why would he do that? Yeah. Imagine if, by the way, this particular company does sell springs. Imagine if they would have said, oh, your answer is to buy this spring and here's the link to the website. what do you think the reaction to the community would have been? He probably would have been like harassed, all right? But imagine if the user with this question came back and posted a follow-up and said, you know what, maybe I should explore stiffer springs. He or she has now invited this brand to make a product suggestion. Do you think that would be effective? Yes. Now, one of the things that people say when I talk about this, they're like, oh my gosh, that is so much work for one sale? You're going to have me like answer multiple questions on multiple forms for one sale? Well, yes, but remember what I talked about earlier about the desire of brands to have, consumers to find more authentic content and appending Reddit onto the end of their searches? Imagine all the other people that now type in 67 Camaro, how do I make it handling better, Reddit, and find this forum. They're now going to see this brand engaging in this conversation with authentic content. This is the example of how to succeed in the future of digital marketing. It's more than just extolling yourself or just lauding platitudes to yourself on social media. It's engaging with your customers and engaging with your community. All right, so what action do you need to take? Well, if you're an emerging brand, start regularly creating original, insightful content about your product and industry. It needs to become a habit. And by the way, look what I put. ChatGPT is not your content writer. In fact, the way Aaron laid it all out about using it to help you get started is a great way to use ChatGPT. Telling ChatGPT to write an article about 67 Camaro handling is going to result in something that's, using the pub. It's not personalized. What's the U? Useful. And what's the B? Brief. Hey, see? All right. Secondly, focus on pushing your content out to relevant sources, relevant audiences. Again, go back to those questions I asked. Who are your customers? What problem are they solving? Where do they go to research that problem? If it is a forum, you should be there on a daily basis answering questions, not necessarily extolling your brand unless you're given permission to do so. And again, as I already talked about, lean in on reputation management. Make sure your profiles are set up and own your brand online. Okay, what if you're an established brand? What if you're a big brand? Well, I'm still going to go back to content creation because what I've seen is that even big brands fail at this. Create good content that answers the questions of your users. The second thing, one of the things that I'm starting to see amongst larger brands that's starting to become in vogue is I'm starting to see big brands, at least some of our clients, are starting to block ChatGPT and other sort of generative AIs from crawling their website. The theory is that, well, this is my proprietary information. I don't want to share this with ChatGPT or other sources. The problem with that is that your website is only one of many sources that ChatGPT and other generative AI are going to. They're also going to Wikipedia, Crunchbase, ZoomInfo, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So if you block it, then they're going to get all the information about your brand and your products from those other sources. So don't block it. We highly recommend letting ChatGPT read your website. And then finally, be careful of those mixed messages, as I talked about. All right, the third implication is we're going to have fewer audience targeting options in this new digital marketing world. Privacy concerns and profitability goals are driving marketing platforms to reduce or eliminate the targeting options that we have today. So one thing that's easy to see is in the side of search engines. If you're really into search engines, they're reducing the number of match types that they have out there. Additionally, retargeting is about to change. I'll talk about that in a second. And things like similar audiences are going to go away. And even the platform options that stay the same are going to have to do so with less data. So what this means is that prospecting and finding new customers are going to become particularly difficult. Let me show you an example. Meta just rolled out their Advantage Plus product. It was launched earlier this summer, and they have some really good content writers. I mean, if you read what it says about Advantage Plus, take advantage of AI. I want to take advantage of AI. Automatically optimizes results. I want to optimize results. Matches the right person, the ads to the right person at the right time. Those are great things. But the thing, when they do it, they're eliminating the targeting options that you're doing today, and they're relying upon an algorithm to figure out who your customers are. The problem with this is the algorithm can be incorrect, and it can be really expensive. In fact, here's an example. Google, for their products, they recommend at least a month of spend before the algorithm can start optimizing. And so basically what's happening today is all these things that you can target on, it's all going away and being replaced by an algorithm that you hope does a good job. And so we're going to go into this different world. And in fact, this world, I want to show you, this is actually a Super Bowl commercial from 2015, which I think does a great job of describing the world that we're going into, where algorithms find your customers instead of you.
Hi.
My doctor called in a prescription?
Yes.
You're not Greg.
I'm sort of Greg. We're both over 50 years old. We both used to own a Pontiac Aztec. We both have a lot of experience with drugs. Sorry, pharmaceuticals. So, say my name.
Sort of Greg.
Esurance helps make sure you only pay for what's right for you, not someone sort of like you. Esurance, backed by Allstate.
So in addition to being a big Breaking Bad fan, I love that ad because it shows that we're going in this sort of Greg world, where today our customer can feel very tangible, but the algorithm can find the sort of Gregs. That's what you have to be worried about. So what can you do about it? Well, the first thing is start testing new media channels now. You will not be able to rely upon you will not be able to rely upon the digital marketing status quo. One of the things that people often ask us, what's one of the biggest mistakes people make? That is, they over-rely on one channel. So whether or not that channel is Google search or SEO or shopping or Facebook or influencers or whatever, you need to be diversifying. You've got to be testing different channels. Now, testing is a considered activity. It's not a spray and pray. You have to take the time to test the channels to figure out where customers are going to consume your information. So start developing and doubling down on things like earned or paid social media, Tik Tok, programmatic display, email. In fact, we're a digital marketing ad agency, and we're testing connected television for ourselves right now. TV ads for a digital marketing agency. We don't do any video. Well, we do now because we're trying to test new channels. So what should you do? Well, I mean, here's some. TikTok, they offer a bunch of new shopping ads formats that you can test, like product links, showcase, or even live shopping. If you want to really get out there, I think we're actually testing one client on this right now, is, Aaron, there's a couple of people here I know that loves chatbots that raised their hands, but Snapchat is already testing sponsored links inside of their chatbots. Are these things that you should be doing? Well, I don't know. But if your customers are regularly using chatbots on Snapchat, you should be there testing ads for that. Okay, what to do today? If you're an emerging brand, I'm going to actually backtrack a little bit of what I'm saying. If you're an emerging brand, don't try and spread a $5,000, a $3,000, a $2,000 a month marketing budget across 10 different channels. That's just simply spreading the peanut butter too thin. If you have a smaller budget, and I know, by the way, I know $5,000 isn't small, but it is inside of the digital marketing world. If you have a limited budget, concentrate and focus on one channel or two channels. If you're a larger established brand, I highly encourage you to set aside at least 10% of your marketing budget to test new channels. And it takes time to do it right, and there's a bunch of basic information if you haven't heard a lot about connected television or haven't done TikTok or programmatic. All right, last topic, then I'm going to take you guys, then we'll be done. Let's talk data. This is the other big thing that's changing today. Right now, most digital marketers have two primary systems where data lives. The first is Google Analytics. And inside of Google Analytics, you get all this data from the advertising platforms, from Google, Meta, Microsoft, et cetera. Additionally, inside of your Google Analytics, you get all of the cookie information today. And then, from your website, anytime you get an order, that goes to your CRM system. And so we're left with this situation where we have a lot of great information about our customers. We not only know their name, address, and order value, but we also know where they live, their age, their gender. Google, the ad platforms will tell us if they like ice cream, how they voted if we wanted to find out. All of this information is being available to you and can be passed to you today. However, in the future, because of some of the privacy law changes, a lot of this is actually going to go away. Remember what I talked about, those ad platforms with the walled gardens? Well, they're going to stop passing you that data that you have. Oh, and by the way, next summer, finally, after all of these announcements, Google is going to deprecate support for cookies. So all of that information that you're using to retarget customers or to figure out the interests of your client base, that's all going away. So you will still have some data, like where people came from, what pages they came to the site, the actions they took, and you'll know about who your orders are, but all the rest of the demographic and psychographic data is going to disappear. Additionally, your data will expire on your analytics platform. So some of you all probably know about this and went through. We recently had to transition from Google's universal analytics products, whereas 6 months ago they would keep your data forever, to now the newest version, Google Analytics 4, it will keep it, it'll expire after 2 months. Now you can extend that if you change the default settings up to 14 months. But the point is that your data will go away. So what do you need to do? You need to be data greedy. Not only do I have a 12-year-old daughter and I have a 13-year-old son. So in a typical 13-year-old SaaS, he says, Dad, this is a you problem, not a me problem. So data is a you problem. And so you need to be data greedy. Your secret sauce to succeed in this new digital world, this new NIL sort of Greg world, is going to be having better data than your competitors. And you can do this through two ways. First off, this system that we have today, we need to consolidate. So this is the process that I would say probably about half our clients are going through right now, and that is setting up a data warehouse. If you are a brand of any size, you need to have a centralized repository for all of your marketing and customer data, because you're going to want to be able to tie not only who bought, but how do they come to your website. But in this world, we're still missing all of that demographic and psychographic data. And this is, again, I'm just going to skim on this, but this is where what's first-party data, the word first-party data comes in. And what first-party data is collecting other information about your users that they willingly give to you. And so there's a lot of different sources of where this data could come from. It could come from social media. You could run a contest. It could become from customer feedback, a survey, an email subscription, your call center. The goal of what you're trying to do is you're trying to recreate some of that demographic and psychographic data about your customers that you're losing with some of these changes that are going on. Now, the thing we have to remember is that we still will live in this sort of Greg world in the future. Your data warehouse of the future will not be a replica of all the insights that you have today. But the goal is where you can make approximations or best guesses about who your customers are. And I'm not going to go into this. There's a lot of detail in here. I'm not going to go into this. But how you use this data and how you market to customers will change. Where instead of where it's a largely automated today, tomorrow you're going to have to make a lot of good best guesses and a lot of experimentation. So what do you need to do? Well, first off, if you're an emerging brand, the first thing to do on data is to set up an analytics platform. Now, I was complaining about Google Analytics 4 here a second ago, but if you're just getting started, highly recommend Google Analytics 4. It's free and it's very customizable. It is so important in digital marketing to start collecting data about where people come from and eventually what they do on your website. It's hard to make decisions without that. So if you have analytics installed, ensure you have your goals and events properly configured, extend data retention to 14 months, and start to understand how you can appropriately and legally use data. If you're really, really small, a lot of the privacy laws don't apply to you. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. I am saying you got to start educating yourself. If you're a big brand, this is where big brands, again, like I said, over half our customers are struggling with this right now. That is, if you haven't done it, if you're new to first-party data, start setting it up now. Because these things like cookies and information you're going to get from the ad platforms will be going away. You need to set up a data warehouse. You need to set up those connections and start collecting first-party data. All right, let me bring it all together. I have thrown a ton of stuff at you today. And I know some of you guys are glazing over, and I appreciate you staying with me. So, but the thing I want you to take away, popping back up to the 30,000-foot level, is you can't continue to market as usual. The tactics and techniques that you are using today will need to evolve. We are going to live in this sort of gray NIL world where big change is happening. If you don't evolve, you will see less knowledge about your customers, you're going to see a drop in traffic, and you're going to see a decline in efficacy over some of the traditional channels like paid search, retargeting, and paid social. So, start now to get ahead of some of the changes today. Maximize the benefit of the website traffic that you're getting. Assert control of your brand outside your website. Start testing new channels and collect data. So, what's next? Where do you go from here? I've thrown a lot at you today, and you may ask, well, where do I start? What do I do first? Well, there's 3 paths going forward. First off, read. Pick a couple of topics. If Google Analytics 4 springs something on you, start reading about it. There's some great sources here inside of my presentation. Start educating yourself. If you want to learn more about today at the SEMA, come grab me. I'll be here for the next day or so. Or you can contact me after the show. All right, that's all I have. So real quick, questions. So I think we've got like a couple of minutes for questions. Yes?
What's your opinion of social listening and how that's going to be changing in the future?
Ooh, man. You're supposed to start off with a softball question. So the question is that what's my opinion with social listening and how that's going to change with some of the privacy laws that are coming into place? To be honest, I'm going to have to say I don't know. I will say, so social listening is basically a feature where software is basically listening into different social media channels to see what is being said about your brand. And it can measure things like brand sentiment, good things, bad things that are going on. I believe that that the social listening companies will figure out a way to anonymize and work with the privacy laws, but I think we're going to have a bunch of changes between now and where it finally ends up. So great that I assume that you guys are using social listening tools. I didn't even touch on that. That's actually so you guys need to meet with this guy here after marketing because he's like doing the advanced stuff, even beyond what I talked about. Any other questions? All right, well, feel free to come grab me. Thank you all so much. Thanks for sitting through. I know it was a lot of material. Thank you all very much.